Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Stock Market Today. It's Alissa Coram and Justin Nielsen here. And Justin, what a day in the market. Can you give us a quick rundown of what we're going to be talking about?
Yeah, so we're going to spend a lot of time on the market today because that's really what's most important. So we're going to take a look at the S&P the S&P 400 and the Nasdaq Composite just to kind of show a little bit of that sector rotation. And then we're also going to take a look at an ETF, KRE, just to kind of show where some of the money was flowing today in regional banks, and then also show a classic upside reversal in Freshpet.
Perfect. Well, let's get going. And starting off with a look at the Nasdaq here, you can see that it was a very impressive upside reversal with the tech-heavy index finishing up 0.8% for the day. The blue chip Dow closing up 2.2%, and the S&P 500 up 1.5% for the day. But I mean, this is something that we were talking about on IBD Live this morning, how you have to be patient.
Yeah. And I mean, I think Arusha brought up the really good point of, hey, this is scary. This is when and it kind of helps that we're all there together, kind of telling ourselves, hey, you know what, this is normal. When you have that kind of move up, it's normal for you to get a pullback. It's scary. You're losing money and it's easy to freak out. But if you have good holdings, you have to be very patient with them. And a lot of the best stocks weren't doing anything wrong. So as uncomfortable as it was, you kind of had to hold through some of that pain otherwise you were selling at the lows. So you have to be very careful of panic selling because as you saw, the Nasdaq Composite came right back. In fact, I mean, the chart really looks great. It didn't even come down to 9,000. It really just touched the 10-day moving average line, and it really found support at the gap up from a week ago. So there's really nothing wrong with this chart, but intraday, you were just looking at a sea of red and it just really felt uncomfortable.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely key to avoid those knee-jerk reactions. Take a step back, put it in perspective, maybe look at those weekly or monthly charts even.
Yes. That was a good point that was brought up multiple times today. Hey, take that step back, look at the weekly. And, Mike also, I think you were on the call with us still when we were going over leaderboard. He made the point of, you often get this 3-day thing where, the first day you're down, the second day, you wish you would have sold more on the first day. And then the third day is when you finally give up, and after you give up, that's when the market comes back. The fact is that this happened on day 2 and we saw this kind of strength. That's actually pretty good. Not even waiting until that day 3 to get that power back.
Yeah, that's right. And you mentioned sector rotation. So let's take a look at the S&P 500 mid-cap index in our database. That's 0SPMC on our MarketSmith charts. So pulling that up here, a very strong move today. So the rally up until really this week was led by tech. We had software looking strong, a lot of chip names, growth names that have just been dominating. But this week, seeing a little bit of rotation.
Yeah. So this is the S&P 400. So there's the S&P 500, which is the large cap, and the 400 is the mid cap. And you know what? The chart isn't showing today's action. Maybe if you switch to MDY, which is the ETF, the Spider S&P 500 mid cap. That's M as in Mary, D as in dog, Y as in yellow.
There we go. There we go. These earpieces. It's
So that kind of shows what happened today. And we saw the sector rotation start yesterday, and what we were seeing was a lot of the beaten down industries where that's what was working. Some of the stocks that have gotten no love lately, and it also kind of goes back to this economy dichotomy of the real economy stocks where, these are the retail, the banks, the things that were getting hit the hardest, aerospace, defense, a lot of these things, not necessarily the broken down completely like cruise lines and airlines, but this is where a lot of the money was rotating into, and you saw that rotation continue today. MDY, again, the S&P 400 mid-cap index was looking very strong, continuing on the previous day's gap up. So as great as the Nasdaq looked in terms of its action, it was the S&P 500 and the S&P 400 that really were the stars of the day.
Yes, yes. And you mentioned regional banks. So let's take a look at KRE, the Spider S&P Regional Bank ETF, seeing a big day of outperformance, up about 7.3%. But this is very emblematic of
Right.
the types of stocks that we saw moving big today, also yesterday, stocks that had gotten hit really hard during the crash.
Yeah. And so you almost expect a little bit of this mean reversion to happen. There's this kind of things get really oversold, and then eventually the bottom fishers will come in. People are saying, look, I see the value here. That's not typically our type of play that we do. Now, sometimes on ETFs, we will kind of venture into that territory, just recognizing that, hey, we've got the diversified. We're not trying to pick the bottom on a particular stock, because that's a very dangerous game. Any stock can always go lower. But with ETFs, you do have a little bit more diversification. So sometimes we will kind of play around a little bit with some of these sectors that we do see getting oversold, and you can kind of sneak in there and maybe get a little bit of that mean reversion, meaning that it is going to kind of go back to its normal level at some point, and that would be again, normal and expected, and you can get a little move out of that. Not our typical style, but this is where a lot of that money was flowing into these beaten down industries, like the regional banks.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. And last but not least, let's take a look at a classic upside reversal. We know how big of a fan you are, Justin, of these upside reversals. So let's take a look at Freshpet, ticker FRPT, with a classic upside reversal today. A big gain, up 9.3% for the session. Very impressive.
And there was just upside reversals all over the place today. And so basically what an upside reversal is you're typically going to have some type of shakeout below an area. You're going to be undercutting the previous day's low, and you come down, and it's sometimes pretty dramatic, but then you get support and you come back in almost nearly as a dramatic way. And that's what we saw with Freshpet. So Freshpet is a name that we did put on Swing Trader near the end of the day. And we saw this breaking this downtrend line, kind of, you have this cup with handle, and it's breaking this downtrend line. And this particular upside reversal, one of the things that's great about it is not only did it surpass yesterday's high, which is great, this is an outside day, so your high is way above the previous day's high. Your low was below the previous day's low. That means it's got a lot of price discovery compared to yesterday. And the fact that it closed up so high in the range is very positive. So it's just emblematic of, again, one of the things that we were seeing a lot of today. Swing Trader, we put on a lot of upside reversals because of that. That's where the action was. And it's very similar to, if you go back to the market, what we saw back on like May 14th and early May, where we did have a lot of upside reversals happening at that time, at those times. So this could be another place where it's offering you that opportunity for some short-term gains from those upside reversals.
Exactly. It's very interesting because I feel like we were just getting to the point where all of those leading stocks that were breaking out a little bit earlier in the rally were getting very well extended. And a lot of, IBD style investors were looking for new, fresh trade ideas. And even though some down days, at least where we were intraday, can feel a little painful, you got to look at the silver lining and look at the buying opportunities that are now shaping up with either these reversals or maybe, a little bit of the beginning of base patterns taking shape for some names.
And that was one of the things that, Bill was always so optimistic in terms of, no matter how bad the market was, he was always looking at the fact that it was creating opportunities. And so you have to kind of take that step back and realize, hey, it might not be fun for a little bit on the short term, but on the long term, it's creating opportunities for the next rally.
That's right. And we will be talking about these opportunities and more tomorrow morning on IBD Live. And if you haven't joined us yet, make sure to do so. That's our morning live stream where we're sharing our screens, answering your questions in real time, giving you market insights and analysis of top stocks making notable moves. So we definitely hope you join us at investors.com/IBD Live. And just a reminder, these conversations are for informational and educational purposes only, so make sure to do your own research. But that is it for today. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow.